feeling good. So I just wanted to introduce myself. Most of you know who I am. Probably, I don't know, but so I have a food blog called Healthy Seasonal Recipes, and I blog about healthy seasonal recipes. And here in Vermont, we have this short growing season. And then, you know, at this time of year, we rely on storing crops. And so one of my missions is to help people understand what to do with things like Napa cabbage and onions and potatoes and that kind of stuff, sort of the more humble vegetables, as well as in the summertime, how to prepare food effortlessly. I try to share a lot of recipes for busy families. So Mary and I were brainstorming what we could do for our second class. And I was like kind of just a little adamant, I should say, about making minestrone soup. And the reason I wanted to make it is that I feel like it is a great way to learn about lots of different types of cooking principles all in one 45-minute recipe. And so I thought that we could make that together. This is the first time we're doing this where it's a cook along. So I'm excited that you guys are all going to be joining for that part of it. So you all got the PDF, correct? Everybody
Yes.
got their PDF with the instructions.
Yep.
And I hope you saw the part about doing some prep work ahead of time. If not, you can just follow along at your own pace, like no stress about that. But I thought what we would do first is to do a little knife skill demo. I think most of you probably left your onion uncut. Is that correct? Okay, great. So if you can see me okay, so I have my cutting board set up here. Before I put anything on it, I just want to show you underneath my cutting board, I have a little piece of, this is like that sticky shelf liner stuff that you buy in rolls at, you know, like Home Depot or Bed Bath & Beyond. I just cut a square of that and I keep that under my cutting board to prevent it from slipping. I also like to use a big cutting board. That's like one of my big tips, is that it's so much more enjoyable to cut when you have plenty of room to work. If you don't have one of these sticky mats, you can just use like a damp paper towel under your cutting board. And one of the things I like to talk about is to set up your workstation as if you're like a cutting machine and you're in the middle and your food is processing through your cutting machine. So I'm going to work from left to right, or instructor right to left. But if you're right hand dominant, you want to be starting with your uncooked vegetables on your right side and ending up with them on your left side. So for the onion, this is the way that they taught me how to cut an onion at culinary school, and I want to walk you through how to do it. So I have a nice big onion. I've taken off most of the papery outer layers because I don't want to make a giant mess of my cutting board. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this root end off, and I'm just going to cut it off ever so slightly. I want to leave most of that root actually intact. I'm going to put it
Katie?
up to this. Yes, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Could you use a white onion as well?
Oh
Or is it a
yeah,
different taste?
definitely. Or a sweet onion for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can see this. I have this other camera here. So that's what this onion looks at this point like. So I just left that root end intact. And then I'm going to take off just the end of the stem end and just take off a little bit there. And then we're going to cut it. We're going to set it down flat side down and cut it through both of those cuts. So you have two even pieces, and you can see here, so all the individual layers there. And then I'm just going to peel it from here. So this is an easy way to peel it. So you should just be able to grab a hold of the outer layer. So this outer layer is kind of like soft and it won't really break down when you cook. So you want to discard this and obviously discard the outer skin as well. And you just want to get that off. And again, I'm putting my prepped piece back on the left side, and I'm going to discard all of my skin and get that into my compost. This is also where my chefs in school said it's important to clean your cutting board at this point. This is where you have to get the dirt off your cutting board, because we don't want dirt in our food. So Then we take our onion, we have it so that the root end is facing towards the left. So again, right hand dominant instructions, cut side down. And I'm going to take my knife on a horizontal and I'm going to bring it in to the onion. And I'm just cutting these, they're about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick slices in my onion. I'm not going all the way through though. It's still totally intact. I'm stopping just short of that stem end, and that'll hold it together. How are we doing? Thumbs up? Thumbs up. Okay, good. So then
we have some that Brooke just joined us. So welcome, Brooke. We just started, so we're just cutting onions right now.
Are you cooking along, Brooke?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, great. We're just cutting the onion, so you haven't missed much.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it'll take me a second to get my stuff.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining. Okay, so now
you.
we're just going to turn it so that the stem end is pointing towards us, root end away, and we're going to take our knife and slice into it, stopping short of that root end again. And we're just cutting 1/2 inch increments or 3/4 inch increments. So we're basically setting ourselves up for the dice, but we don't want the onion to fall apart. This root end is holding everything together. And then I'm going to turn it so that the root end is back facing the left side again. And now I'm going to create my dice. So I'm going to just slice straight down, and these beautiful, perfect squares of onions are going to come out the other side. So that was 1/2. Now we have to do the other half. All told, we need 3 cups of onions. So I'm going to let everyone work at their own pace to practice their onion cutting skills. I'm going to start moving along at a slightly faster clip because I have some other knife skill stuff I want to talk about. Feel free, if you have any questions, to unmute and ask or put them into the chat.
Yeah, I got my eye on chat, so any questions at all?
Okay, great.
This is Claudia. I actually have a question.
Sure.
Well, you know how this happens with an onion sometime? I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a little bit of that brown skin, but it's inside one of the layers.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally normal. And I'm so thrifty that I don't like to waste that. And so I usually just sort of like cut around it and then pull those pieces out because I don't want to miss out on them. I don't know why that happens. I think it has something to do with the way that it grows. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Is anybody crying?
How do you like my scallion? Talk about not throwing anything away, right?
Oh yeah, look at that beauty.
Right? Well, I'm like, I'm saving this for spring.
You can regrow those too.
I know. I have done that. I did that with cabbage this summer and with onions and regrew them from my veggies.
Stop it.
Fun.
But you put this in a little pan of water and then you'll see the roots and then you just plant it.
That's amazing. I've seen people do that on Instagram and they have like romaine lettuce and
all sorts of stuff. I love this.
So I'm going to just demo how I would dice the carrots. I think most of you have probably already cut your carrots. I think that was in the notes, but I just want to show you the principle of cutting, again, like working this machine from left to right. So to cut the carrot, one of the things that the chefs in school always told us was that it's really important to have a manageable amount of vegetable to cut. So instead of trying to cut that whole lengthwise, it's safer to cut it into a more manageable length. And then that way it's not going to slide or roll on you. And then to cut with the cut side down. So you're always working with a flat surface if possible. So I'm cutting it into pieces, cutting it flat side down, and then I'm going to dice it through. So processing it through the machine, going from left to right.
How about holding the knife so you don't cut your finger?
So it's really
or holding the other.
It's really how I'm holding my non-dominant hand, and I am cutting it. I'm basically holding my fingers like this so that they're tucked back slightly, and that I'm almost holding on to the vegetable with like my fingertips, like almost like my fingernails. And I have my knife literally touching my
Knuckles.
chef's knife. It's right up against it. And that's actually safer to do it that way because you know exactly where your knife is at any given time. That's how I can do it without looking at it, is because I can feel it. And so I don't want to like lift it up too high, because if you go too high, that's when you are sort of out of control and don't have it close enough. All right, that looks like 1 cup. So I'm going to put that in here. All right, I think it's time to start cooking. What say you? So did everybody get themselves a small saucepan of water? Yeah, okay, so if you haven't yet, go ahead and do that. So you'll need a small saucepan of water, and I'm gonna put mine on, I'm gonna put mine on medium, oh no, I'm gonna put mine on high, let's see. And I'm gonna work back and forth and cut my zucchini as we cook. Okay, so soup pot. Does everybody have a decent soup pot for this? So I grew up with, do you guys remember those pots that have like the copper bottom and they're really thin? They have a
Revereware?
special name. Yes, Revereware.
Yes, yeah.
So I grew up with those, and that's what I learned to cook on. And I never knew about the difference between cooking with a heavy pot and a thin pot like the Revereware. Well, when cooking soup, it's all the difference to have a heavy soup pot. So this one is made out of cast iron. It's very heavy and it takes a long time to heat up. So I'm going to start my heat under mine. And this recipe, I use medium high heat for this. I have a gas stove, and my gas stove is like super powerful. So I'm actually not paying attention to what the actual dial says, because medium high on this stove is actually like turbo 5 minutes. So I'm going to go more. Really, the timing isn't as important as what we're looking for. So what we're looking for is the vegetables to be, these onions and garlic to be browning. So onions are very high in natural sugar. And we want to bring out the best flavor. So if you can think about the difference, can you picture what a boiled onion tastes like? Anybody? It's not like the most pleasant or interesting flavor.
It's just watery.
Yeah, watery, or even like a little like sharp, not something that you would like, oh, I'll take a side of boiled onion. But by contrast, a caramelized onion has so much richness, brownness, it's sweet, it's just got a ton of additional flavor added to it. So when you take the time to add caramelization in this first step, that's where you're going to develop this slow cooked flavor from the same ingredients. So you could just throw the onions in with the broth, but then they're just going to taste boiled. So we are caramelizing them first so that they have more flavor. I'm not adding anything else to this pan at this point because I don't want this to let off so much liquid that then they're just boiling in there, right? So if you think about, here's a trivia question for you guys. Who knows the temperature at which water boils?
12?
212. That's right.
212?
I bet you don't know this one, Henry, but you may know it. Do you know what temperatures sugars caramelize? Like, have you ever made caramel before?
Yeah, it's less than that.
It's more than that.
Is that more?
So
Okay.
it's like 350. So if you've ever made caramel before, you've got your pot of sugar water and you bring it up to a boil, and then it boils for like 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, once the water evaporates, then the sugar starts to turn brown, right? Has anybody ever seen that? Raise your hand
Yes.
if you've seen that. Yeah. So that's after it's gone through that 212-degree stage, the temperature will start to go up, and that's where the sugars start to darken. So when you are cooking vegetables, that's basically what you're doing. Like right now, I'm evaporating the liquid out of this onion so that once that liquid is evaporated out of it, that's when those sugars are going to start to caramelize. That's why I'm not adding in any other veggies in there that are high in water content, because they're just going to slow down that caramelization process. Who's seeing browning on their onion? Is anybody getting any color yet? Not yet. Okay, that's fine. We've got time.
Thank you. Starting to getting brown.
They are getting brown?
Gloria said hers are start. Did you say they're starting to?
Yeah, it's just starting.
Okay, so that's fine. They can get a little brown. We want a little bit of color. If it's getting too dark at this point, you can turn down your heat a little bit. But we want to get a little bit of flavor on there.
Okay.
So think about, so the next things that go in are the celery and the carrot. So they're just gonna sort of do what's called crowding the pan. And so if I had put those in that first step, the veggies would have completely softened before they could brown, and then they'd be like mush by the time I was done cooking my soup. So they're gonna have more texture to them if I wait and add them in the next step. Okay, I'm starting to see some good color on my garlic in particular, and my onions are starting to brown ever so slightly here. I think I'm about ready. Can you see in this view here what mine looks like, you guys? So they're nice and soft at this point, and there's like the edges are a little bit brown. I'm gonna let it go for like another minute. How are, let's see, where are the, oh, Betty and Mike, I didn't even see you come in. How are the sous chefs doing at Casey's house? Are they on their cell phones like my teenage daughters? They're like, yeah, this is great, Mom.
Casey, how you guys doing?
Jen, how are you doing? How's your onions? Are they brown? They're browning. They're good. Debbie, how are you doing?
They're starting to brown.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, I'm gonna move on because mine are actually browning, and I think I need to add in the next step. So I'm gonna put in my celery, 1 cup of chopped celery, and I'm adding in my carrots. I'm also going to add in my salt and my Italian seasoning. I'm doing all this now because, well, one, I want to soften my veggies a little bit. The salt is actually going to draw the liquid out of the veggies a little bit. And so the seasoning is going in now because I want to really bloom the flavor out of that seasoning. So you could just add the seasoning in once the liquid is in, but when you cook seasoning, dried seasonings in oil, they actually sort of seep into the oil and they will imbue the recipe with more flavor. So that's a little tip from me to you. I highly recommend taking the time to do that step. All right, I'm just gonna clean up a tiny bit here. Is anybody's water boiling yet?
We got a thumbs up from Claudia. Brooke,
Wait
thumbs
till
up.
Uh-oh, we're freezing. Was I frozen there? No? Okay. All right, so yeah, we just want to keep this moving, keep it browning a little bit. So next up, we have the deglaze step. So I'm going to use wine in this. It's a 1/2 cup of white wine, but if you don't use alcohol in your cooking, that's fine. You can actually substitute more broth. So this recipe calls for broth, so you can use more broth, but wine also adds acidity to a recipe. So what I would recommend is to use maybe 2 teaspoons or so of lemon juice, and then the rest broth to substitute for your half cup. Alcohol actually in cooking does help your taste buds perceive flavors better, which is like a weird science thing. But if you don't keep it in your house, that's fine. Just use the broth with a little bit of lemon juice added to it. All right, I think I'm ready to add my macaroni to my boiling water. Is everybody ready to do that? Do you all have your boiling water ready? Yeah. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and do that. Now check out your box of macaroni and just make sure that you're following the cooking instructions. You actually want to cook this according to the box instructions. So cooking it completely. Mine said 7 minutes, so I'm going to set my timer. Oh, I don't want to forget my salt. Sorry, adding salt before I add the pasta. And I'm just going to add that in. So I cook the pasta separately because when you try to time it in the soup, it actually never works. I've learned this the hard way doing like large batches in a restaurant kitchen, and it never works. It absorbs all of the liquid from the soup, or it gets overcooked and mushy. So the best way to do it is to just do it in a separate pot and add it at the end.
Do you cook it al dente or do you cook it to the?
I cook it al dente. I almost always cook pasta al dente.
So like if it's like 7 to 9 minutes, you'll do like the 7 minutes?
Exactly, yeah. Yep, so I've set my timer so I don't forget. So if yours happens to be a 7-minute pasta, I'll let you know when my timer goes off. Okay, I am ready to add my wine here. And you know what? So I don't know if you can see this in this view here, but I've got a little bit of browning on the bottom of my pot. So that's fond. That's the tasty, crusty bits that make food more flavorful. So I've got those in the bottom of my pot, and I am going to try to harness them with my deglazing step. So I'm just going to pour this in, and I'm going to scrape it up with my spoon and get all of those bits off of the bottom of my pot. And those are going to make the flavor of the soup so much richer. And I really want to cook all the alcohol out of that wine. So I'm just going to cook it until it's almost completely dry. So this will take a minute or two. All right, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Emma, is that your sous chef?
Yeah, she's doing great.
Oh my gosh. How old is she?
How old are you, Eloise?
3.
3. I thought she was going to last 10 minutes, but she's still going strong.
Yay.
It's fabulous.
I love
It's
it.
fantastic.
My girls love to cook, but they do not love to cook with me because they say I'm way too bossy.
Right?
Look at that.
They're doing great.
Yeah, that's
They're making me dinner. I love it.
that's
Perfect.
perfect.
All right, so my wine is pretty much dry at this, not dry, but it's au sec, which is like there's just a little bit of moisture in the bottom. So now we add in our liquid. So 6 cups of vegetable broth. So you could also use chicken broth. One of my first restaurant jobs was I was in a bus girl at an Italian restaurant in Pennsylvania. It was this Italian family from Philadelphia who owned it. And they made all of their broths with pork snout. And so, and they would put that in the marinara. So they put it in everything. But, you know, I'm just using, this is how I'm making my Italian soup.
Not as much fun.
No, but I think if you take the time to develop the flavors by caramelizing and doing the deglazing and blooming the spices, I'm going to turn my heat all the way up, you guys, because I want to make sure that we're done by 7. So go ahead and turn your heat up under your soup pot. If you want, you can even add a lid too to get that so that it goes a little bit faster. And we've got about 3 minutes before the timer goes off for the pasta. So I'm gonna just take a second to do some more chopping here, you guys. So I hope you waited to chop your basil because I want to do that now. Because basil is, it really is all about, that one you just have to do at the last minute. So this is that great local basil. Have you, the Vermonters that are here, have you seen the fin and root basil?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Where?
I'll show you the. So I've been seeing it all over. Like they have it at the, well, here in the Richmond market, they have it at Healthy Living.
Healthy Living,
So
yeah, exactly.
this is the
Oh.
package. And this is grown through aquaponics, which is, it's like a living machine where there's like a thing with fish growing in it. And then they've got, in another tank, they've got the plants growing from the nutrients from the fish tank. It's so cool. And it's in this huge facility up in, like up near St. Albans. So you can get local basil in February.
Can I just say something? Diane has had the biggest smile on her face, like from the second we started. Like everybody's just big smiles, like so excited. It's so great.
Well, you're probably getting fresh basil down there in Florida, aren't you?
I have a pot of it up back on my lanai.
Oh my gosh, I'm jealous.
I didn't even know what a lanai was. Last year when I went to Florida, I just learned what a lanai was. I had no idea what a lanai was.
I never knew what one was either. So you take your basil, I'm doing this without explaining what I'm doing. You just want to grab a big wad of it and hold it in your hand and then just ever so slightly let a little bit out on the end and just slice these sort of like slivers of it. And you don't want to overwork it. I'm sort of sliding my knife through it because you don't want to like mash it down. That's what turns it black. You want to think about sort of just, it's almost like snipping it. You could do this with scissors too, which is the way my mom always did it. So I don't like to rough up my basil too much. I do it into the little strips and then maybe once through the other direction, like 3 or 4 times and do nice big pieces. So I'm going to set that aside. That'll be the very last thing that we add to our soup. About 1/4 cup is what you need, maybe a little bit more for garnishing. And then
anybody have questions about cutting the basil? I can't, like I see like your beautiful faces, but I can't see the cutting. Is everybody got it down? Thumbs up.
Oh, there's our timer for our pasta. So if yours is a 7-minute pasta, the time to drain it is now. I'm gonna take this over to the sink. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain it and then I'm going to run some cold water over it to cool it down and also to prevent it from sticking together while we're waiting for the soup to finish up. So I'm going to take you with me with my AirPods so that you can hear me, but you won't be able to see me. So I'm just going to put it back into the pot and sort of fill it up with water. And then I'll drain it again. Looks like everybody's at their sink.
Henry, where are you from in Vermont?
Essex Junction?
Oh, nice. I'm in Waitsfield.
Oh, yep, okay. Well, more or less nearby.
Yep, beautiful area.
I know, I agree.
We have Gloria here from Mexico and Diane from Florida. It's so great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
All right, I'm gonna just drain this one more time.
Katie?
No need to add any oil to that or anything. Just having that starch washed off should be fine to keep it from
I think Henry
sticking.
has a question.
Would you
Okay,
save
go
any of that water from the pasta put in the soup at all?
I don't think we're really gonna need it. I think it'll be brothy enough. I have these are 4-cup containers of broth. And so I have 2 cups left over. So if I do end up needing more liquid, I'll just add the rest of that. And also as this soup, I'll have leftovers from this. When I reheat this tomorrow, I'll probably have to add in some more of that broth because you know how leftover soup, just the liquid disappears. Yeah. So I'm going to grate up my Parmigiano. Did everybody get Parm for theirs? I like to grate mine by hand, but I'm a mom, so I never have time to do this. So I will not judge you if you buy pre-grated Parmesan. I'm doing this solely because I'm on screen and I feel obligated to do this.
It's great.
I love that, and I love your honesty. I had a quick question for you. Do you ever put brine in your soup?
Do I ever put brine?
No, the rind of the Parmesan.
Oh, yeah, totally. That is so yummy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love that. And I think if this was more, I mean, that's something where I can't really call for that on my blog because not everybody has a rind of Parmesan, but I would have put that in with, you know what, you guys, I forgot to put in the zucchini. Let's put our zucchini into our soup right now so we don't forget. And then I'm going to set a timer for this, and I'm going to cook this for about 5 minutes. Too many things going on. Yeah, I love adding a Parmesan rind. That's definitely something they would have done at that restaurant where I worked. They were all about using up every last bit of everything, and that would not have been something they would have wasted.
That's awesome. My husband always teases me. He's like, it's genetic in your blood. You can't throw anything away. Right? He's like, it's been a couple of weeks. That. What do you think? And I'm like, it still looks cute. It's okay, you know?
Yeah. All right, so I've got my basil, and I'm gonna put my parm to the side, and then 2 more ingredients. So has everybody drained their can of beans? I did not put that in the instructions. So I just wanted to mention that for the kidney beans, those should be drained, and I usually rinse them as well. I'm also gonna did anybody remember to buy a loaf of bread? I put that in the PDF, but I don't know if anybody saw that, but I went ahead and got myself some bread to go with this because.
Hey, Red Hen.
Yeah, my people would be upset if I didn't serve bread with soup because that's basically why they like soup, is dunking the bread in it. So I'm putting this in my oven.
Do you have any way of that reminding yourself so you don't burn the bread? Is there anything that you do to make sure, any kind of a thing?
You know, I usually put it in I don't preheat the oven, and I put it in like at the last minute, like maybe 15 minutes. 10 or 15 minutes before I'm going to serve it. And it usually works out okay. You can always set a timer though. So has everybody got their zucchini?
Gloria's got homemade bread.
Wow.
Oh, love it.
Nice.
I haven't made homemade bread in a couple weeks. I've been doing it pretty regularly since COVID started. That was actually the very first, everybody was off buying toilet paper. And my first thing I did was I went to my neighbor's and I got a piece of his sourdough starter, and I went and bought flour because I was like, I'm gonna need to bake. Yeah, but I haven't made bread in a couple weeks actually. Last week I just fed my starter and didn't do it.
You have is that homemade sourdough?
That's gorgeous.
Stop it. Oh my!
Now, do you do that do you bake that in a Dutch oven, you guys?
Yes. Do we make it in Dutch oven? Yes.
That's how I've been doing mine, and I think so. That looks way better. The shape of yours looks way better than mine. Oh, wow, look at that.
Look at that.
Okay, we'll have to chat offline about sourdough.
Maybe we have to do a sourdough class.
I would want to take that. I am certainly not an expert in that.
Has anybody else attempted homemade bread?
I used Katie's recipe.
So you use the whole wheat one, right?
Well,
yeah.
sometimes I substitute oat flour for the wheat flour.
Mm.
And I actually.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I would love
my,
that too.
my soup came up to a pretty big rolling boil. I turned it down. I'm just sort of gently simmering it at this point. And pretty much everything in there is done except for the zucchini at this point. So if you're looking at yours and your zucchini is looking like not bright green or looking a little translucent, you can turn yours way down and just wait for the next step, because we don't want to overcook that. I'm going to grab my macaroni. And so we have a can of Italian plum tomatoes, or, peeled tomatoes. So this is like one of those weird Katie things. So you don't have to do this. If you want, you can just use canned diced tomatoes. But I find that the texture of whole tomatoes that have been broken up is much more pleasant. They put this stuff called, I think it's like
chloride.
Calcium chloride.
Chloride, yes.
Is that, yeah. They put that in the diced tomatoes to make them hold together during the canning process. And it also makes them hold together in your soup and all that stuff. So it's they're tough. And I think when you use these whole peeled ones, you get a much better texture. It's rustic, and I think it's more authentic as well. So my zucchini is looking pretty good. How are you guys thinking about your zucchini? You want it to be a little bit translucent, but you don't want it to be army green or anything like that. Can we get a thumbs up if yours is looking good, or do you need a minute or two? All right, let's move on. So now I'm going to add in my tomatoes. So one by one, I'm going to break them into the soup by hand. And I'm just sort of like crushing them into it. And it's okay if some pieces are big, you can sort of cut them in half with your spoon in a minute, but they sort of like the seeds can sort of squirt out. It's not a very pretty thing to do, but I love the way that this makes.
I think it's a lot of fun, Katie.
Good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, hands-on, right? Hands-on.
Hands-on.
Yeah, exactly. Playing with your food.
That's right.
Yeah, so you just take them out, and then we'll pour in the sauce too at the end. So once you break them in, you can.
Diane, is everything okay there? What's happening?
I have it all over the front of me.
That happens to me too.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens. You got to sort of it's like chewing like a cherry tomato, it's like they burst sometimes. All right, so I also do that. I think I have several recipes on my blog that require you to do this. So once you get them all in there, you could just add the rest of your broth or the sauce from the can and add that in. And we're just basically at this point, we're only just going to let it simmer until it's heated through. We don't need to cook these tomatoes anymore. And we're also going to add our can of kidney beans as well. And we're just heating them through. We're not cooking them anymore.
Okay, will this last for a couple of days, and will the zucchini get mushy in a couple of days, or will it?
It won't get mushy, but it will turn army green. But it should keep its nice texture for several days. And you can actually freeze this soup, and it will be great. The pasta, when it freezes, definitely does get more mushy, but that's really the one thing that doesn't work out. So can you guys see how great this looks? You can all see your own and see how great it looks. Okay, I'm adding in my kidney beans and my pasta. And we are almost done. I'm just going to heat this through, and that's it. I'm going to turn up my heat a little bit so that we can get it back to you just want to bring it just to a bare simmer, and then we'll turn off the heat.
And because you caramelized everything, that's why it's going to have the flavor as if you had let it sit all day, right?
Yeah, and also the caramelization for sure, and then blooming those spices in the oil, using that wine, which brings out the flavor, and then also balancing the flavors like that. the amount of acidity that you get from the tomatoes balanced with the amount of savory ingredients, that all plays into effect with how much flavor depth you're going to get. So in Italy, did I mention that I did my junior year in Italy? I don't think I've even said that yet.
No,
I did my junior year in Italy, and I ate so much that I had to buy new pants. I literally outgrew my pants because I ate so much. But one of the things, I loved all the soups there. The soups were amazing. There's all different kinds of Italian soups. But one of the things they always do at the end, right before they put it on the table, is they put a little olive oil on top.
Of course
And
they
if
do.
you happen to be into olive oil and you have 2 different kinds of olive oil in your kitchen, like the really good one that is just for finishing a dish, this is where you would use that one. If you do not happen to have 2 different olive oils in your house, totally fine. Use regular olive oil, that's fine. But if you're ever wondering why people buy fancy olive oil, it's for this reason. It's because when you cook with olive oil, you lose a lot of those like sort of olfactory senses, kind of nuance to the flavors. But if you add it on at the end, you're not going to lose any of that. So mine is simmering. I'm going to turn off the heat. I'm going to add in my basil. We wait till the very end to do that because you don't want to cook the flavor out of your basil. Oh my gosh. How does it smell, everyone?
Wonderful.
Good.
That was good.
I had to make New England clam chowder this afternoon because my husband won't eat this, but he'll eat
Oh. Good for you. All right. So then we want to ladle this into our bowls. And then we will top it with our Parmesan and our olive oil, the way the Italians would, right? And you won't have to buy new pants just from one bowl, I promise.
Has anyone ever been to Fiore Oil in Maine?
No, but they sold that when I was in Portland. There's this really amazing cooking store, and I think they maybe sold that there.
I'm making a huge plug for it. And so
that looks familiar.
Bar Harbor, but they've got ones in all over Maine, and the owner is incredible. And my best friend lives in Italy, in Rome, and she just turned 50. So I had like this aged bottle of balsamic vinegar, the thick balsamic. Like,
oh yeah,
I never used
stuff
that.
is amazing.
Sent to her because I wanted to send a gift from Vermont, $71 to ship. I'm like, okay.
Real quick, Gloria has a question about the basil. Did she miss the basil?
The basil goes in after you turn off the heat, at the very end.
So did you put it on? I missed it too, I think.
So the basil, the 1/4 cup of basil gets stirred in after you've already added in your pasta and your beans and you've warmed that through. Then you turn off the heat and add your 1/4 cup of basil. I saved a little bit of extra and I'm putting that on for garnish as well. You don't have to do that though. So I was hoping once you guys all get your soups ready to go that we could take a little selfie or a screenshot of us with our soups so that we can show off our cooking prowess.
Yeah. It looks delicious.
I'm smelling this and I'm like ready for dinner time.
I'm so jealous I didn't cook along.
Don't forget your bread.
Next time, Mary.
Yeah. What'd you say, Henry?
Don't forget your bread.
Right?
Oh, right.
See?
Yeah.
I told you. Exactly.
It's okay. I'm going to set a timer for it though. Thank you for reminding me.
Mary,
I think it
bring
needs
me
like
some soup tomorrow.
Oh, and some of that bread.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea.
I can't wait to see you girls tomorrow morning. They're going to come by and take it. I can't wait. I don't know. I just
All
did
right,
that. That was weird.
everybody grab your soup and let's hold it up so that we can do a selfie. Ooh, look at that. I love that bowl.
All right.
So pretty.
3. Wait, are we ready? Hold on. All right, the girls are like, come on. Don't burn your hand. Oh, look at that. Look at Emma. Right
I
into
know,
the
I love
camera.
that bowl that Emma has.
I took one. Let's see if we can get another one. There's another. 3. Here we go. All right, smile.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. And again, you always got the safety one. All right, I think I got some really good
Awesome.
good screenshots.
Thank you. You guys want to try it while we're all still
All right,
together?
now taste it. Let me see how you. Let me just see.
You just have to get a spoon.
Depending on what kind of broth you bought, this may need a little bit of an adjustment with the like a little bit of salt. Feel free to add that. I won't be offended in any way. Mine
Is
actually
it okay to add the
pretty
salt afterwards? Like that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I add bouillon cubes in for a little flavor with
Yeah.
using unsalted broth. And I
Have
love
you
that.
ever read Kitchen Confidential, Lisa?
No, I haven't. What's that?
It's a book by Anthony Bourdain, the food personality. He wrote a book about just like his memoirs working in the restaurant industry. And at one point, he talks about how in culinary school, the chef was super impressed with his stock.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what Anthony's secret was. And it was because he was putting some bouillon cubes into
There you
it.
go.
Right?
There was a bouillon cube from Whole Foods I used to get. I can't remember, but it was vegetarian, and everyone would say, "This is good. This is good," and it would be from that cube. So
The
that's,
secret ingredient.
I guess so.
So I have a $100 gift card to Homeport on Church Street in Burlington. So everybody who was here, I wrote your names on a piece of paper here. So I'm going to draw that now, if that's okay, if you're ready for that while you enjoy your soup. All right, so let's just go over here and not look and see what we got. Claudia. Yeah. How do you say your last name? Marieb?
Oh, you did it right. No one does it right. Marab, like Arab. It's Lebanese, actually.
Mareb.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fabulous. Well, congratulations. So I will email you so I
that
get
is
your
so
mailing
nice.
address and send it out to you. Yeah, I appreciate everybody doing this tonight. It was so much fun.
It was so much fun, and now
So
I
how's
have
this-
a huge pot of soup. Thank
Yeah.
you.
dinner's ready. So you guys,
Perfect.
do
You
me a
guys are
favor.
great.
If you can go back over to healthyseasonalrecipes.com, search in the search bar for minestrone. If you can go over there and leave a star rating and review for this, that's super helpful for my website. It helps my website perform better in search. So if you ever make one of my recipes, doing that is like gold for me. So I really appreciate it if you can do that. And we will now, Mary, were we going to send them a follow-up email after this?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
recorded this, so I have to figure out where I'm going to put it so that you guys can get it. We'll send a follow-up email. We'll let you know when the next one is, like where we just started doing this, and we'll keep in touch with that. We'll also put it on our website at star929.com, and if you listen to Star, we'll talk about it there too. So you can follow Katie, Instagram, Healthy Seasonal. Her blog is Healthy Seasonal Recipes. Can we give, let's do, Katie, nice round of applause for Katie.
Thank you.
That was really fun. It was really amazing. And to you guys too, like to all of you.
Exactly.
This is really fun, really fun. Also just want to thank Homeport too, because they sponsored this event, hooking us up with the $100 gift card. So
Yeah.
I want to thank
thank
Homeport
you,
too.
Mary,
And of course,
for emceeing this.
thank you. Thank you. I didn't do anything, but it was fun. Oh, thank you. So star929.com, you can follow us there, and star 92.9, and I have a radio page, Mary Sensi. But outside of that, I love seeing faces. I just love seeing all of you. So hopefully we'll get to do this more often, and we'll I'll make sure and email you and let you know what is up next. What's up next?
Great.
Does anybody have any questions or anything before we move on?
No, let's do it again.
I agree.
All right.
I love it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye,
Thank you. Have a
everyone.
great
Thank you.
night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye,
Thank you.
Henry. Bye,
Bye,
Ashley.
Mary.
Bye, Jen.
Ciao.
Bye, Gloria.
Bye, thank you.
Brooke,
Bye.
thank you so much. See you guys.